We got Kyle hates hiking on this episode, and you would not believe what kind of conversation we had.
Hate it. Do it. What's going on, Backpacking and Blisters family? This is Derek, and with me today is the only man who still, yes, he will use the licorice as a straw, but also somehow as floss with his gappy teeth, Carl Mandrioli. What's going
Floss
on?
again.
Big man. How many times can I do floss? I'm gonna keep it coming.
Every other episode, basically. So with me today is Derek Somerville. He's a man who hates peer pressure, and he thinks you should too, or you're a fool. It's
I thought you
okay.
were gonna go I thought you were gonna say jump off of a pier or something.
No, because you're peer pressuring them to hate peer pressure. It's okay. It's all right. You know what? I'll explain it afterwards. Yeah.
If you have to explain it, you shouldn't do it. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm only explaining it to you, not to everybody else out there. Okay, let's talk about explanations. Are you going low effort now with your kind of, the video prep? Like for YouTube, his backdrop now is a wall with a partial picture and a hallway.
That is a picture of Antarctica. That my head's in the way.
Your head's covering it. Doesn't matter.
You like that? Yeah, it was an iceberg that I kayaked over by. So there you go.
All right.
Something real, not fake like the wood behind you. Okay.
My question wasn't what is that a picture of? It was, are you putting less and less effort into the YouTube production?
I'm trying.
Okay.
I'm trying.
Well, you're succeeding.
You know what? Does it have wrinkles? No, it doesn't have wrinkles.
All right.
That's a step up.
You did not make the interview with Kyle Hates Hiking this episode. And let's be honest, if you did make the interview, right away, even if I told you not to, what question would you ask?
Kyle,
why do you hate hiking? Why do you hate hiking, Kyle?
Is that what I would? That's original. That's original.
Exactly. I would have been like, Derek, I told you specifically not to ask that question.
Look, I would have twisted the screws. I would have turned them. I would have made it really uncomfortable for you, and that's what I'm sad about, really. This was a good interview. This was a lot of. He's a fun guy.
Oh yeah.
And that sounds really general and wah, but he is.
No. We got into it. We got into some good stuff. I kind of picked apart a couple of his videos and we just dug in. And he was not shy. He gave it right back.
I like that.
And he obviously knows what he's talking about. So
and I got some critiques for both of you guys.
Okay, thanks.
I
Thank you.
need to comment on later. So
all right,
we'll get to
not
that.
surprising.
No.
Definitely some interesting takeaways here. But first, we got our Bible verse of the episode, 1 John 2:9. Anyone who claims to be in the light but hates a brother or sister is still in the darkness.
Get out of that dark, Carl.
Yeah, hates being the key word there. Is it okay to hate other things though, like hiking, or in your case, like hard work?
Let that awkward pause ring out. I think you've expressed your hatred for more things, aka aquaclips, aka buffs.
Yep.
I'm gonna even throw Nalgene's
in
there.
I don't mind the buffs. I hate the price point.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Nalgene's again. I like Nalgene's, just not on a backpacking trip.
Semi hate.
Or driving in the car and trying to drink and spill over yourself.
Are you becoming like a grumpy old man then?
I kind of am. I apologize.
Hate everything?
Yeah,
everything?
I hate a lot of stuff. I'm sorry.
I hate facial hair. I hate hair on my head. I get it. It's fine. I hate shoulders that feel good. I don't know. Jeez.
All right. Well, okay. So I'm asking your permission, I guess, is the question. Then is it okay to hate these other things that are not related to people?
I guess so, Carl. I don't know. No, I mean, you don't want to. No, I mean, I think hate in the heart just leads to a miserable time in life. So, I mean, the more you can forgive, the more you can get rid of it, then the better.
Yeah, right? Hate in the heart. I don't know that either of us get described that way ever. So
I hope not.
But we're going to talk about kind of the origin story behind Kyle Hates Hiking, and it's we're kind of late in the game to talk origin stories. He's pretty big time. He's 100K subscribers at this point, but it's time, my friend.
So we're right behind him with what, like 750? What do we got now?
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Right on his heels. Watch out.
Watch out. Yeah. If you are new to our channel because you're a fan of Kyle and you just want to give some love or some charity subscriptions here, we will take all of those. So
smash and click. That's all it takes.
For sure. All right. Without further ado, here is Kyle Hates Hiking.
Do it.
Hello, I'm here with Kyle O'Grady, and I am here to talk backpacking with somebody who deems himself Kyle Hates Hiking. On the screen, for those watching YouTube, Kyle Hates Your Mom. He's also Trail Tales podcast host. You got a lot going on, man. How's it going?
It's going good. Thank you for having me. I I love doing podcasts, and it's gonna be fun.
It's going to be fun. So now, okay. So full disclosure, I did note to you that you're now on another podcast that's family friendly. I put that in the email to you and I put a little smiley face next to it. I'm not sure if that helps, but like, how did you find yourself another family friendly podcast?
I don't know. I just say yes too much, I think.
Okay.
So here I am. No. I'll hold back.
Okay.
No bad words. And if I do
We got
drop
you covered.
any accidentally, no one's gonna hear them.
We got you.
Because
Yeah. I thought
Carl's
about
gonna do a good job editing.
I am. And I thought about sending you like a thesaurus ahead of time in case you needed to think of alternative words.
That's not a bad idea, honestly.
Yeah. Just be like,
That's
wait,
not a
hang on
bad
a
idea.
second. Like, I got a thought. Let me look up a word real quick. Yeah. That'd be a little awkward, actually. All right. So I'm sure you've been asked about your channel name a bunch. And so here's my question to you is when you came up with the YouTube channel, Kyle Hates Hiking, at the time you're coming up with this and you're kind of like creating the channel, did you realize that you're building in a question or questions that you probably have gotten like 1 million times?
That's actually a really funny question. I did not think about that. I didn't even think about the possibility that anyone would care about anything I have to say. So no, I was not considering that. I
Okay.
literally kind of stole it from, not exactly, but there was a kid that went to my college who I didn't even know him. Honestly, I can't even remember his name, but I just happened to see his Instagram. Like we had some mutual friends or something.
Okay.
And his Instagram handle was like, whatever his name is, hates the outdoors. He was
Oh,
like
okay.
an outing club kid.
Yeah.
And I saw that and I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. And then so like a year later, like after I'd graduated, when I was trying to think of a better Instagram handle, that's when I changed my Instagram to Kyle Hates Hiking.
Okay.
And then, you know, a couple of years after that, when I went to start the channel, that just seemed like the natural fit for the name.
Right.
So it actually was my Instagram name before it was my YouTube channel for a long time, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, it's obviously working. That plus the good content you're putting out. So like typically when we have somebody from YouTube, I go back through a lot of their videos, the ones I've watched, the ones I'm interested in. And honestly, I had a really hard time picking out topics for this one because a lot of the topics that you choose, I don't know if you're just really good at, coming up with titles or if you just find the topics that are kind of just hitting the sweet spot. But there's just like, it looked like, video after video. I'm like, I want to know about that. I want to know about that. And so you just have like a variety of things on your channel. And to me, they're all amazing and interesting.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's really important for people that are like trying to take content seriously to like be trying new things. Like it's good to have like a established like style of video that like will do well and that people want to see.
Right.
And you can do a lot of that, but also I think it's good to just like try new things. And a lot of the time they're not going to work out, but every now and then you'll find one that does, and you're going to push your channel forward because of that. So I've always like tried to kind of mix it up. I put out a lot of content, so it does kind of look like a lot of it is the same or not the same, but just similar because a lot of it is honestly, but I just put out so much that like there is a lot of different things thrown in there. Most of which is terrible. You had some very kind things to say, but it's pretty bad. Pretty much all of it.
Yeah, I imagine somebody with 100,000 subscribers probably puts a lot of bad stuff out there, right? I don't think so. But that's interesting because yeah, for me, I'm okay to take risks and put out completely different thoughts on episodes. We had like a trivia game show a couple weeks ago, and I had no idea if that was going to do well or tank.
That's
whatever.
Fun. You should have invited me, dude. That'd be fun.
Well, you'd be on the celebrity edition.
Sure. So the easier version is what you're saying. That'd be fine. That's fine.
They are easier, aren't they? The celebrity ones. That's so funny.
I think so. Yeah.
I don't know. I asked some pretty easy questions that went unanswered and then got like anger towards the question. Like, how are we supposed to know a trail called like the Ice Age Trail? How are we supposed to know that? I'm like, everybody knows the Ice Age Trail.
Ask me one of the questions. Do you remember any of them? I don't want to just recap your other episode.
Oh my gosh. Put me on the spot. Yeah, that's a good question. So, okay, what did we have there? We had, I can ask you a ridiculous question that my co-host came up with, which was like, name 2 freeze-dried companies that start with the letter P.
Peak Refuel.
Yep.
And ding, ding, ding. I don't know. I can't.
Yeah, and that's what happened. We had one person get one. Second person, it's called Moocher's Mayhem. So they could like mooch off the first person. They didn't know. And then the third person had time to think about it and then got it. And it was Packet Gourmet.
Oh,
So
that's a good one. I've never actually had their stuff before, but yeah,
it's legit, man. It's legit.
that's a good question. That sounds
That's
like
not a good question. That's too like obscure.
that is
So
fun.
I would ask questions. So my question, like on the Ice Age trail, was something like, name a famous Midwestern long trail that's also is named after a movie or something like that.
Oh,
so that was the Ice Age one.
I don't know if I would have gotten that one, to be honest.
Or what's the long trail in Colorado called?
Colorado Trail?
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. But not everybody's from Colorado, so that's why it might be hard for them. So, all right, I'm going to put you down as a possibility for our next trivia game show.
I'm down. That sounds so fun.
All right, Celebrity Edition. But what you were just talking about, though, was really interesting. So you're not afraid to take risks. I actually challenged somebody on this podcast about like, I'm not going to name names, but it's like something similar to like Stan Baxter, if you know who I'm talking about. And he was like so concerned about the titles, and he just every video he's just so motivated to make it the best video. And I was like, and so he had put out a different kind of video recently on like the backstory behind Sawyer, and I was like, is it okay to have a video tank as long as you're just trying something new or you're getting a different kind of message out there? And so for him, I think he was not as excited about that, but it sounds like you'd be willing to take that risk. Is that accurate?
Yeah, but it's a calculated risk too. You know, it's not like I'm just totally out of left field. Like I'll think about it quite a bit, and try to make sure it's related. And we'll certainly put a lot of thought into. Like I'm not just gonna do it with zero idea whether or not it's gonna. Well, actually, now that I say that, maybe sometimes, but it's a calculated risk. I think. Is what I'll go back to. Is the best way to say it. And a lot of time they don't work out, but every now and then they do work out, man. And I wouldn't be at almost 100,000 subscribers as of the time of this recording if I hadn't taken a lot of those risks. So it's calculated.
So let's go down this road a little bit farther. So most of your content is about like backpacking stories, like your through hike of the PCT last year. You have a lot of, backpacking tips and gear, but then you also go down some other roads, like, I don't know, stories or interesting things from the trail. So what if you did something different and you went more like survival mode? So it's still outdoors and you're like, okay, I'm going to make a video called like, can I build a successful backcountry shelter? Okay. So it's like still like outdoors. It's still kind of on brand, but it's not quite the same thing. Would that be something that you would do?
I don't know about that one specifically because I don't know anything about like survival or bushcraft or anything.
That's what makes it fun. That's why it's fun.
Actually, that's true. Now that you're actually right. Like it would all depend on how I framed it. I couldn't frame it as in like, oh, if you want to learn this, watch this video, because nobody's going to learn from it because I don't know how to do it. But if I framed it as like, oh, watch this idiot try to build this thing he has no idea how to make, then that could. I get what you're saying there, actually.
And that's what our podcast is all about, is us talking about things we're like, really? Is that really true?
And that's why it's fun. I don't know, maybe, if anything, I think maybe I don't have any plans for this at the moment, but like maybe I could go more down the route of like just regular like camping, like going and camping in a cool place. And like, I don't know, that sounds boring now that I think about it, like setting up, cooking some stuff over the fire. I don't know, though. I haven't really put too much thought into it. The thing is, like, I'm a thru hiker, dude. Like, I'm a hiking nerd. Like, this is what I live and breathe and have for many years, even before I started making content.
Right.
So I think eventually I would like to, I don't want to say transition away from that, because that is just who I am. So that's never going to go away. But like, try some other stuff too, certainly.
Yeah.
But for now, it's like, man, I'm just I've had like other YouTubers that are like bigger than me like tell me I should like try some other stuff, and I'm just like, man, like I'm a hiking nerd. Like I don't know, I don't really know what else to do. Like this is and I still think there's a lot of potential within that niche too. I think there's like, I have a whole list of ideas. A lot of them probably aren't very good, but there's entire things that I haven't even tried yet. There's a lot there, but I think eventually I would try some other outdoor adjacent, camping adjacent, maybe kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, if you ever want to bounce it, I'm the ideas guy. You ever want to bounce ideas off?
Okay, cool.
We can go back and forth. I thought I have a million ideas, just not the time to pull them off. So we had somebody who was on Alone on a few years ago. He was a winner on that show, and I was like trying to convince him that we should do like another documentary, but instead of just like sitting there, you're just like literally sitting one spot. What if it's like a through hiking alone where you got to like hunt and get your food and build your shelter as you're going point A to point B, but just do it in the summertime when you can actually find food and stuff. And so he was like kind of into that, but it never happened. So anyway,
Bummer.
Yeah. All right. So one of your recent videos you have out is called something along the lines of like 7 terrible gear mistakes every backpacker or every new backpacker makes. And
it's always so weird hearing my titles read out loud like that.
Yeah. Well, well, that's like one of the first ones I clicked on when I was like, which should I have this show about? So have you gotten some good feedback on your thoughts on those?
Yeah. Definitely. Like, it's always fun when I do those videos too, because then honestly, like, a lot of beginners will watch it and stuff, and hopefully they can get some information from it. But a good portion of the people that watch those videos that are explicitly directed towards beginners in the title are actually people that are just as experienced as I am.
Oh, yeah.
And watch it because they want to like kind of leave their input too.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of interesting, like the feedback you get, like for every, oh, thank you for posting this, I learned something. You get like these are good tips, or, oh, you should have included this one, or feedback like that. It's really kind of interesting. And I like it, honestly, because a lot of the time I'll get ideas for videos from people leaving comments too, which is always nice. Because it makes my job easier. And honestly, there's a lot of people that watch my videos that have a lot of very good stuff to say, have a lot of experience. So it's it's fun. That video, I think that was my most, I think that was my most recent video. I think it's doing pretty well.
Yeah. Well, okay. So if you're getting ideas from listeners, I'll have to start commenting more on your videos and put down like, I love this video about tents. What if you made your own backcountry shelter and then just kind of start planting seeds that way? Yeah. Just plant seeds. I mean, not obsessive, just, like 5 or 6 comments a day, nothing big. So we'll start with that. Okay. So yeah, honestly, one of our most popular or most downloaded episodes was one we put out a few years ago called 8 Rookie Mistakes You Might Be Making. And I think it's hitting on what you were just saying, where people that are not, they're already experienced, they're not newbies. I think that there's like a secret, like I should listen to this, or I should watch this just to make sure I'm not making these mistakes.
Definitely. I was going to say that too, actually. And then I got sidetracked. Like there's definitely a lot of that too, when people watch those videos. Cause I do that sometimes when I see those titles. I'm like, I've hiked like, thousands of miles at this point, and I'll see like 3 beginner backpack mistakes. And I'll be like secretly like looking over my shoulder, like I better make sure I'm not making these. So.
I know. I mean, I'm a pro. I can't be making these mistakes. So I picked out, I don't know if I picked out all of them, but I got a list basically. And so I've got some, I think I just got one that I have like a strong reaction to.
Okay.
I have some that I got questions about, like just kind of clarifying questions. And then there's one that she had on there that like, I think is the one where I've been saying this for years. I think this is the best one, and I think that everybody should listen to this. And I think only about 50% of the people are actually doing this. And so, do you want to start where we agree, where we might disagree, or where I might have like a strong reaction?
We gotta start where we agree, and then we'll build up. We'll build up to it. This was the most recent one you're talking about.
Yeah, and so by the time this is released, it might not be your most recent video, but
yeah. But for the time being,
it's
trying
fresh.
To see if I still have my notes on it, but I don't think
I can remind you. I'll talk about you once I start talking about it, you'll probably remember it. So the one that I think was your best tip.
Okay.
And you had really good reasons too, actually probably better reasons than I did. When I've shared about it on the podcast, is you say to use water bottles instead of a water reservoir. Well done, my friend.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah.
It's so true. And like, well, I mean, of course there's some people out there that prefer the reservoir, but I think generally speaking, it's definitely more common for people to be taking, these right here, the plastic smart water bottles.
Right.
Because like, I mean, I can go through the reasons real quick.
Yeah. If you remember, go for it.
Yeah. Like the first couple backpacking trips I ever did, I had a reservoir, because I feel like intuitively a lot of new backpackers think that that's what they should be doing, because it's so convenient, it's right there, I don't have to reach for my bottle or whatever. I did that my first couple trips, and it leaked and soaked my sleeping bag. Fortunately it was summer, so it wasn't like a huge deal or anything, like I didn't freeze or anything, but it could have been a lot bigger of a deal. And of course, there's probably a lot of incompetence there on my part as well. So it's
they leak, man. I've seen them leak on everybody. That's
I
just how
saw
it goes.
comments on that video, like people were saying the same thing happened to them.
Yeah.
So that's a big reason. Second of all, it's just inconvenient because you have to basically dig through your pack every time you want to fill it up, and that's super inconvenient. And then honestly, maybe even the biggest reason, actually the biggest reason is probably the leak risk, but another big reason is just because it basically forces you to constantly be filling up, your max water capacity,
right,
and then drinking it down,
right,
which might not sound like a big deal if you're, on the surface level at least, but when you're hiking in an area that has lots of water, you can actually be pretty choosy with how much water you carry. You have to be safe about it, obviously. And if you're not sure, if you're new, you should definitely err on the side of caution and bring a little bit more. But like eventually you'll get pretty good at judging how much water you're going to need, and you'll be able to look at the sources ahead of you, and you'll be able to basically calculate exactly how much you're going to be able to bring without carrying a bunch of extra weights, because water is very heavy. And when you have a reservoir, you have to just fill it up all the way, and then just drink it down. And so you're going to be carrying more weight as a result. So I do like them for day hikes and for like trail running and stuff, when weight isn't really a concern. But for backpacking, it's no good.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I'm the same with you. So for full disclosure, I use them frequently. Like I'm using them probably 3 to 4 times a week with, mountain biking or trail running or going on day hikes. But for backpacking, I do not. And furthermore, if you look at the convenience of just trying to filter directly into the reservoir for people to try to do that.
I didn't even mention that.
Yeah, so that's annoying. A lightweight one typically weighs 5 ounces versus that smart water bottle you just showed weighs less than an ounce. So you're adding a 1/4 pound needlessly to your pack. And then you mentioned the video also that you don't know how much water you have left. So it's kind of a guessing game. Like, am I almost out, or is the hose pinched? Like, I don't know. And so, it's just, I think it's terrible. And then my number one complaint about it actually is that anytime I put my backpack down, no matter how I put it down, no matter how careful I am, that bite valve is going into the dirt every single time.
Good point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So, well, we had different reasons, but same outcome. I'm 100% with you on that one. So I got a couple of questions. One of your tips was you need to make sure that you know your gear, like test it out, like set up your tent, all that stuff. All right. Which 100% makes sense. But then you threw in the phrase like test out your sleeping bag. And so I was trying to figure out, like, how do you test out your sleeping bag? Like, are you going outside, like camping out in your backyard to test this thing out? Or like, how do you do that?
Did I say that? Really?
It was like a little, I think so.
I probably just said it off the top of my head, honestly.
Okay. I should know if you had like a strategy, because I don't know how to test out a sleeping bag.
Test out a sleeping bag. I mean, you could always like go and just like set up something in your backyard and like test it out, which sounds ridiculous. And if you're only going for like a short backpacking trip, then maybe that's a little overkill. But like if you're gonna go for a through hike, as ridiculous as that sounds, as weird of looks you're gonna get from your neighbors, it's not the worst idea, especially if it's gonna be cold too. I guess you could also just go for like a shakedown hike.
You're
and
right,
that would also serve the purpose probably better. But for some people that's not possible. So it's better than nothing for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
For sure.
All right.
Although I feel like I don't even remember saying that, to be honest. I probably just like threw that out there. I stand by it, but it's probably not the most like, I wouldn't like overthink it too much for anybody listening. Like, don't worry. You don't have to go sleep in your backyard with your sleeping bag. Like, you will be fine if you don't do that, but it's just, it's an option.
Well, if you're willing to own some of these comments and not even remember saying them, I could just start making up stuff and
shoot. I should
make this really controversial here.
I should have been more definitive in my answer there, huh?
That's right. I got another one. This one was about not choosing, or let's see, it was like not choosing efficiency when choosing your gear. So you're just choosing gear over efficiency. And so we kind of mentioned that with like I don't know, you could make the case of that with the water bottles too, and the filtering and that kind of stuff. And so here's my question, because this is something that I struggle with. I go back and forth on this particular piece of gear all the time. So I don't know where you stand and how you view this in regard to efficiency.
Okay.
All right. Where do you stand with trekking poles?
I like trekking poles for when I'm backpacking. When I'm day hiking, I usually don't bring them anymore.
Okay.
But when I have weight on my back, I like trekking poles. Okay. And I don't know where you stand. I think in terms of efficiency, I think they help me, because when I'm going, a lot of people talk about the benefits of trekking poles when you're going downhill, which are great. But honestly, I find that when I'm going uphill, they help me even more because I just like, you can get some like leverage out of your upper body to kind of help you like help propel yourself uphill, which I think makes things more efficient. I think it helps me like keep a what's the best way to say this? Like a constant, a steady stride, I guess, if that makes sense, just like without tripping up as much. And so I think they help keep me efficient.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to take this. So this is kind of like where our show goes. We go down different rabbit holes here. So I think that, I mean, it's been shown like they're going to make you more efficient as a hiker 100%. But when you're talking about gear efficiency and like, you know, having things handy, like in your pockets and just the way you function on the trail, if I want to grab my water bottle, if I want to put my trekking poles down when I'm taking a break, if I want to do anything with my hands, now I've got these poles in the way. And so sometimes I'll just let them dangle off my arms and now they're dragging.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother you.
Honestly, it doesn't really bother me that much, but that's a good point. I never really thought about that, to be honest with you. Actually, I have thought about it. The example that gets me the most is when I go to grab my camera, actually, because when I'm hiking, I have my camera on my shoulder strap.
Yeah.
And that's the time it bothers me the most, for sure.
Because if you're taking video, it's like clank, clank, clank in the background, right?
Yeah, or it's just annoying to take my I also like am very pro trekking pole hand strap, which some people aren't. So I always use my the straps on my trekking pole. So if I go to grab my camera, I have to like take my hand out of the strap. And then like hold both poles with the other hand. And then if I'm trying to film something in front of me, I'm still like holding the poles while I'm holding the camera. So it's kind of inconvenient. But overall, like I think the benefits greatly outweigh the inconvenience, I guess. And I've always thought that it'd be nice to have some sort of gear. And I think I saw this on Instagram not too long ago. I think it was on Garage Grown Gear or something. Somebody's actually doing this now, but I've always wished that there was some sort of little loop or clip that I could like attach to my backpack where I could just take my trekking poles and just like quickly, just like, you know, clip them in or something.
Yeah. Like a sheath.
And so then I could have both my hands free for a second and then I could just quickly grab them, like easy, efficient. And I'm pretty sure, I don't remember what the name of the gear was, but I think it was a magnet, actually. Something like that. Yeah. Like you put a little magnet on your backpack and on the trekking poles, and then you can just like quickly, you know, stow them like that.
Right.
Which is a good idea. I've always wanted that. Ever since I started filming my hikes, I've always wanted that. So I might have to look into that. So that would help a little bit with the efficiency thing, but
I'm going to make a prediction right now that the company that's going to come out with that is going to be Mystery Ranch backpacks. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
No, I think it was like a small startup kind of thing, if I recall.
Yeah, they don't have ultralight backpacks or anything, but they were the ones that incorporated the big pockets like the running vests have, and they have those on their backpacks. And running vests already have the clips you're describing. They have like little loops that you can clip your trekking poles onto, so they kind of sit on your shoulder straps.
Oh,
like right here.
Really? I'm not familiar with that, to be honest.
Yeah, they're really convenient, and so I'm sure. And honestly, they don't weigh like hardly anything, so it wouldn't be a big addition to the pack. And so so Mr. Ranch is the one that's kind of incorporating some of that technology. So I'm gonna predict they're gonna have that. In fact, if
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, so
definitely.
Good. I like that. I like inventions. Nice, man. That's good thinking. Yeah. So okay. So you mentioned one thing that I honestly haven't heard before, so I might be behind the times.
Okay.
But you said you like having like the strap handle on your trekking pole, but not everybody likes that. Like some people get rid of it, or just they buy poles without that. Like what's the thought behind that?
Or they just don't use them. Okay. I don't know. Like I would feel naked not using the straps on my trekking poles. Like I use them.
Right.
A lot of people will put their hands through the loop, but they'll put it through the wrong way.
Okay.
Like, which I've been told that I do it the wrong way by some people. I think the way I do it is right. I just like, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this. Basically, you just put your hand up through the loop.
Yeah.
But some people will go down and then kind of turn it, like, I don't know. But the way that I do it, you get leverage with the strap. So you actually don't even, I probably, preaching to the choir here, but like, you don't even really have to grip the pole that hard to get the leverage, especially going uphill. Right. And so I like that, but some people don't don't use them. They don't use the straps. Like Flossie, my hiking partner, he doesn't use the straps. I think one of the straps broke one time, and so he just cut the other one off, and he was like, I don't even care. And versus me, one of my straps broke once, and I was super mad. I was like, I was so mad because like I just need the strap. So I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that don't use the straps, so maybe they can talk some crap. Tell us we're wrong.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hopefully we'll get some feedback about that. I'm trying to think of the advantage, especially if you're crossing a stream or some sort of ice field or something, and then like it sticks in and your momentum goes forward and you lose it. Like your strap's off.
I've heard that some people say that you could like hurt yourself too if you were to fall and the strap could like break your wrist or something. I'm not saying it's never happened, but I've never heard of that happening. That doesn't dissuade me at all. But when I've talked about that in a previous video, that was a comment that some people were saying, which I'm pretty sure they were just looking for a reason to complain, honestly. But I guess theoretically it's possible. I'm sure it's happened to somebody. But I don't know.
You can't play that game like anything's theoretically possible, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about like the concept of sharing group gear in an episode a few years ago, and we talked about like, okay, so we can be collectively lighter weight because we have one stove or one water filter, we're sleeping in the same tent, whatever. And we had somebody come back with us like, well, what if your pack that has all the group gear like falls off a cliff or goes down a river? I'm like, that doesn't ever happen. Like who does that happen to? Like it can happen 100%, but that's, I don't know. You're just making up like fake scenarios. So
yeah, exactly. There's no way to prevent against every little circumstance.
Exactly. Okay. So here's the one that I had a question about. All right. That's the one that maybe not a question. I just disagree with.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Let's do it.
And it could just be that we know different people or we've experienced different people or encountered them on the trail. But one of the biggest mistakes people make, gear mistakes, you said was stressing out about your gear. Like people are stressed out. Like, are these people whose lives are just so easy that just backpacking gear like freaks them out? Like what's the scenario here?
I've had people, especially people that are prepping for like the AT, for instance, message me just with like paragraphs of text about like the exact right trail runners, and the exact right backpack, and like, oh, if I bring this pack, is this little thing gonna go wrong?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be dismissive of that, because no, dude, there's people out there that get stressed out about their gear. I stand by that 100%. Like, and this one is mostly based off of the messages that I've gotten from people. And one thing maybe I should have clarified in the video is, like I said there, I think this one is particularly true when it comes to people who are prepping for a long through hike, because there's a little bit more at stake there than if you're just prepping for like a weekend hike and you're just trying to, In fact, it probably, I now that you mentioned this, I can see, like, I kind of wish I'd clarified this in the video a little bit more. Because I could see even the opposite being true for people who are just going out for like a short hike. Like, say they've never backpacked before, it's their first time, they're just going out for like 2 nights with a friend. They're probably just like, whatever, just throw whatever in the backpack, and there's no stress at all. So I could see that being the case. But when it comes to the long through hikes, and there's also people that do that for the long through hikes too. They don't care. But I've gotten messages from people, that are like really stressing about it. And so I think with that point, I was just trying to like drive home that, like, look, it's good to be, it's good to put a lot of thought into your gear, because, it will keep you safe. You need it to keep you safe. But also at the same time, it can go too far, and it can get to the point where you're kind of wasting time thinking about things
a lot of time,
too much. Yeah, exactly. And this is probably just a small minority of people, but I mean, I get those messages sometimes. And so I think that was me trying to kind of speak to some of them. And then there's also just people who are just like really obsessed with gear, and like, maybe they're not through hikers. And this is definitely a minority of people, but like maybe they're not through hikers. Maybe they are just weekenders that only get out a few times a year. And so like gear is their way to stay connected to the backpacking world when they're not actually able to get out there. And so they spend a lot of time researching gear, and maybe
it's fun though, right?
And it's fun, but when you go down that rabbit hole, you can also go a little bit too far and start stressing out about it. So I think that was kind of, I wish I could just record my monologue answering your question here and just insert that over what I said in the video, because
plug it in. Yeah, you can have this video if you really want. That's so funny. Okay, point taken, because you're more plugged into the thru hiking community than I am for sure, and we have quite a few folks that thru hike that that are part of our community, but the feedback I get is typically people are like excited about their gear to the point where they're packing, 2 months beforehand. They got all their gear laid out. They're researching this, they're researching that. And so, yeah. So I guess trying to process through what you just said there. I think that if you're, I don't know if you're stressing out about your gear, my take, not being as accomplished of a thru hiker as you, would be, aren't they using a lot of this stuff before the trip? I mean, especially you mentioned the shoes, like, putting the shoes on the first or second time should not be the case when they're starting that, the thru hike. They should have like hundreds of miles on that same type of shoe. So they know like they're not going to get blisters, hundreds of miles with, pack weight on this and that. I get you can't test like tents out in every condition or sleeping bags in every condition, but for the most part, there's a lot of things you can check out ahead of time.
Yeah, I don't think it's super realistic for most people to be able to get hundreds of miles of experience before their first long thru hike, though.
For training? You don't think so?
No.
Okay. How much did you train?
I will tell you right now, 99, maybe a little bit less than that, but
okay,
because a lot of thru hikers have also done previous thru hikes, but for first time thru hikers, we'll say, most of them are not getting hundreds of miles of experience, anecdotally, based on my observations.
Okay, this is interesting.
It's good to, for sure.
Yeah.
You should definitely get as much as you can.
Right.
But like I had hundreds of miles of experience before my first long thru hike, but like most people aren't doing that. There's people that have never backpacked a night in their life that go out there and hike the entire AT.
Yeah. No, I know that those people exist, but you're saying that there's like a lot of those people.
Yeah, or people that have only done a couple nights. Again, okay. I don't want to. I use the 99. I'm going to take that back. I don't know the exact numbers.
Okay.
It's all just based off of my observation. But like, yeah, man, there's a lot of people that have never backpacked or have only done a little bit on a trip a couple of years ago, or maybe went out for like 2 or 3 overnight shakedown hikes before. People that don't have the ability to hike like more than 10 miles in a day when they first start out. And so, getting hundreds of miles of experience before they start isn't really practical. Okay. There's quite a few of those people. And again, the more experience you can get, the better, both with your gear and just in like physically, training wise, to make sure your body's ready. Okay. But for a lot of people, that's probably not practical. And I think a better way to say it is just not realistic, as in they're not going to do it even if they could. So,
yeah. Well, practical. I mean, we've gone over in our show a number of times, like practical ways to get training and backpacking. And I go so far as to put weights in a backpack and wear it to the grocery store, go grocery shopping. And I know that not everybody's that self-confident enough, and I'm not even that self-confident myself, but there's ways is all I'm trying to say. Okay. Like I said, you're more plugged into that through hiking community. So I'll defer to you on that one, but I just haven't known anybody that's gotten stressed out about their gear. In fact, our group that goes, our like typical like annual crew, is so the opposite, that we've shown up without sleeping bags and sleeping pads and pillows and just like, like all you gotta do is cross off the gear list before you show up and it still goes missing. So anyway.
Yeah. I think another aspect of it too is, I think it's largely just based off of our different experiences. Like, I can definitely see people being overwhelmed with the amount of information on YouTube, because every backpacking channel is putting out gear videos, right? Every backpacking channel is putting out like, you need this backpack, or like 5 pieces of gear you should never go hiking without and stuff. And so like, there's just so much information. I feel like people sometimes get overwhelmed with it too.
That's true.
Versus your friends probably don't care about stupid YouTubers like that. Like, they're not watching us, so they're like, whatever, I'll be fine. But there are people that definitely, stressed. Maybe that's a bit of I definitely have gotten messages from people who are legitimately stressed about it, but maybe that's a bit of an overstatement. Like most of the time, maybe it's just people who are just overthinking it. Maybe is a better, maybe that's the word I should have used in the video. People who are just really overthinking it because there's just so many different options. And And one thing that I've tried to do in my gear related videos is, not always, but a lot of the time, my gear advice is very general. I tend to stay away from specific gear items, like saying you need this exact piece of gear.
Right.
Sometimes I do when it's things that I really, really stand behind, especially if they're budget items too, where I know people aren't going to be breaking the bank if they get it. But a lot of channels, and there's nothing wrong with this too, but just one thing I've tried to do is stay away from being like specifically like this is the tent that you need, this is the backpack that you need. In a lot of my gear videos are more like just general advice, like here's what you should look for in a backpack, or here's what you should do with your gear, rather than here's the exact piece of gear that you need. And I think I hope that helps.
Yeah, because like people fit backpacks differently, or they want something different out of tents or whatever.
Yeah, and everyone's gear preferences are different too. So anyone who tells you, myself included, because I'll probably tell you this at some point, but and I probably have, but anyone who tells you this is the perfect piece of gear, this is the absolute best piece of gear, they're not saying it literally. They mean it's just a good piece of gear that you should consider getting. Which most people understand that, but just to be clear, for a few that maybe don't.
Right. Well, one of the favorite things I've noticed about your channel though is when you go back and you're like, hey, and you're like scrolling through the internet, like you're like almost like pseudo shopping online in your video, and you're like,
doing that.
Yeah, it's so fun. Like you're like, and you're just naturally reacting like, oh, check out this tent. Oh, this costs $800. And then anyway, so you're almost like going the opposite way, where you're kind of poking fun at some of the the high prices.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
I love just like sharing my screen and just like trying to make jokes about gear, basically.
Yeah, I love it. I was cracking up. All right, so we had on a few of these, but if you want to get the rest of the 7 terrible mistakes you might be making, so Kyle's got a video on that. He had a couple other videos I just wanted to briefly touch on as well. It's hard for me to skip over a video where you're talking about backpacking and the word cult in the same sentence. And so you had one about like the Appalachian Trail cult. And I mean, okay, if you want to know about what this cult's all about, or why they're on the Appalachian Trail, like Kyle's video completely explains it. But so this is me picking out a sentence of something that you said out of your video, and then probably overanalyzing it. So, okay, so here's what you said. You're like, okay, there's a like a backpacking trail cult on the Appalachian Trail, and I knew that they were a cult at a time. And then here's the key, but I decided to stay there anyway. They had like a hostel or something. Okay, why did you decide to stay there anyway?
Because it was kind of an experience, So I think it's important to give some context about what this group is. So they're called the 12 Tribes. They don't just exist on the Appalachian Trail. They're I think they're all over the world, actually.
On lots of trails.
Other trails and other places. Like I know they have a big group in Germany and like all over the place. And they're like a religious group, but they're not like a normal church that you would think of. They're basically the cross between like a Christian fundamentalist group and like a hippie commune, like think like Woodstock 69 or whatever, like kind of vibes. It's very bizarre. And so they have this hostel on the Appalachian Trail in Rutland, Vermont, and they also operate these delis across the country and world, I think, called the Yellow Deli. And so like that's how they make a lot of the money for the group. They have these like delis, and they have a hostel attached to the deli in Rutland, and it's free for hikers to stay there. And so that's kind of what draws a lot of people in to stay at the hostel.
Right.
And so I had been to the deli once before I stayed there when I hiked the Long Trail, because those two trails, Appalachian Trail and Long Trail, coincide through southern Vermont. And so I like had been in the building before, and I also had just heard a lot of things, from people talking. And when you say like it's a cult, it sounds just totally negative. But honestly, the reputation they have within the AT community is pretty mixed, actually. I would say it's just based on my observation. It seems like it's maybe 60% bad, 40% good, to be honest, because
it's a lot of bad.
Yeah, I know. But like you'd think like if it's a Christian cult, especially in these days, like people would be like overwhelmingly bad. But no, it's actually not all bad, because they let hikers stay there for free. Their food's really good too. And a lot of people like don't have like super bad things to say about them. It is kind of weird. And I've heard that, and actually in my video after I posted it, a lot of the comments were saying that I think the experience tends to be a little bit weirder for women maybe than men.
Okay.
But when I stayed there, it really wasn't that bad. I was kind of hesitant to do it, but my friends wanted to. That was the main reason why. It wasn't my first choice. I'll say that.
Okay.
I'd also stayed at a hotel once in Rutland that was awful, like crackheads running around, just like it's not the best town. I'm sure we could have found somewhere else that would have been fine, but like I think options were somewhat limited as well, as they often are when you're in town on a thru hike.
Right.
And so my friends wanted to stay there. And so I was like, okay, I'll go with them. And I was like, I'm just gonna not let them push anything on me. You know, I'll be courteous, obviously, but I'm not gonna like engage them with any conversations about, because what they do is, from my understanding anyways, because I didn't experience this, they didn't push anything on me when I was there, to be totally clear. And that's the case for a lot of people too. But I think they do tend to like, maybe like, the word I used in the video was prey on hikers, which might be a little extreme, but also not really. I think they kind of like
P-R-E-Y or A-Y?
P-R-E-Y. Yeah. Yeah. Like they might be looking for like someone who might be kind of open to like going out of town away to their little farm. You know, they'll invite people to their farm, basically, is what they do. And you know, they're not going to kidnap you. Like, you're totally free to leave at any point. They're not kidnapping people. That's not what I'm saying. But that's like a recruitment tool, basically. And I think they'll kind of look for, based on conversations I've had with other people, I think they will kind of look for hikers who might seem a little lost and might seem a little open to this kind of thing. And so it's just a little bizarre. And there's also like some controversy, not related to the AT specifically, but just the group more broadly when it comes to the way that they treat their children and some of the rules that the women have to follow in the group. And I don't, you know, I'm not going to go down that route. There's plenty of information. If you just Google 12 tribes controversy, you'll find it. There's been some legal stuff, but
so they see you roll up, and you're saying that they're, you know, they see a confident guy, knows what he's doing. He's going to make it to the end of the trail. You're not their target. You're not their target audience.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. They were very nice to me. And the food was really good too.
Yeah. Food. That's the connection I had, was when I was back in college, there was like a local cult, and they had like very just beautiful people were part of their organization. And they were always like, hey, why don't you come to, you know, this like Sunday lunch or Sunday dinner? This is their line: if nothing else, come for the free food. That was like the way they sucked you in, and they got a ton of people all the time.
It's basically what they're doing with the hostel there.
Yeah, because
you're offering food, but the stay is free. Yeah,
exactly.
Or you can leave a donation. I think they ask for a donation, but it's not like the way I phrased it in the video. It's like profit was not their motive when it came to the hostel, which is a little bit weird. You know.
It sounds like your experience is better than mine. Like the one that I had was very high pressure and like lots of phone calls, lots of like, they use guilt tactics. Like, hey, I thought you were excited about this, you know, like almost like, you know, guilting you into doing things. Like, you said that you wanted to do this, and now like we put a lot of time and effort into this, and you're backing out. Like what are your reasons? You know, like, do you even have a good reason? And so, and you know, as a younger person, you're like, I don't know. I just think this is bad. And so anyway, so that's kind of why it struck a chord. But full disclosure, so I'm a Christian, not part of a Christian cult. Haven't kind of broken off into a different sect of things, and just non-denominational churchgoer. So yeah, not for cults for sure. But it hooked me. I was like,
glad we got it on record.
Yeah, I don't. And you mentioned the other town that had some rough customers there. I'm not sure if you're selling some folks on the Appalachian Trail at this point, but I think it's mostly safe, right?
Oh yeah, it is for sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Rutland, Vermont's an interesting place. I'm from Vermont, so Rutland to me, when I think of Rutland, I don't even think about it in terms of like a thru hike, honestly, because I've been there a lot just in normal life too. Yeah. It doesn't have the best. It's not like that bad. Like, it's not like a dangerous place or anything. It's just in terms of like AT towns, it's a little bit rough around the edges, I think, is probably the best way to to put it. But when I stayed there the first time on my long trail through hike, dude, we just picked the cheapest hotel in town, and like we got there, and I think the town had been basically paying for people that were, you know, down on their luck, we'll say, to stay there. And so there was guys just totally strung out. Someone tried to sell us an iPad that was very obviously stolen. Like we were just walking into our room, and there's like, "Hey, you guys want this iPad?" We're like, "No," and then they just kind of scurried off. The cops showed up at one point. It was a mess, dude. It was way sketchier than staying with 12 Tribes, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So beware some of those spots. Just kind of do your research, I guess.
Yeah. If we had taken 2 seconds to look at the Google reviews, we would have easily been able to avoid that.
Right.
Learned that lesson.
Okay. The last video I want to talk about, I think I already touched on this, so I'm going to skip over this one, but there was one you did on backpacking scams, which I just found really entertaining. We mentioned the tent thing, and you kind of scrolling through. So I'm going to jump right to, okay, this is kind of like a deeper dive into some questions I got to get to know you even a little bit better. So I've got 3 backpacking scenarios for you, and I just want to know how you'd respond.
Okay,
right?
cool.
How do you respond to these? I'm sure you've had a lot of crazy, interesting experiences as you've literally just described out on the trail. You've encountered lots of different folks. We're going to go one by one, and this is just going to help us get to know you better. So number 1, you get to make a video going backpacking with a celebrity. All right. Kind of like the Bear Grylls TV show, you know, like where he takes a celebrity and like kind of digs into their life. But this is with you, and this is just backpacking. This isn't like survival. You don't have to like eat animal carcasses or something like that or do stunts. So who's your number 1 draft pick?
Oh man, that's such a good question.
Who do you want to dig into? You can have like deep level conversations.
What's your definition of like a celebrity? Because I don't really know that many like actual like A-list kind of celebrities.
Yeah. Well, if you're thinking like, am I a celebrity? Like, yeah, I wouldn't count. Sorry. I'm not gonna be your
there goes that answer.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking like maybe outside the box, like, you know, talking like LeBron James.
Yeah, or like an athlete or something.
Yeah, it could be athlete, could be, you know, Brad Pitt. It could be.
It's definitely not going to be a movie person. Maybe a comedian. Probably. I don't know, dude. Like
Jim Gaffigan.
Do you know who Mark Normand is? He's a stand-up comedian.
Maybe, yeah.
He's not like an A-list celebrity, but you know, he's doing theaters and stuff every now. He's been on Rogan, like he's at like that level, so he's pretty famous.
Okay,
maybe him. He'd probably hate me.
Why would he hate you? Are you gonna sit down next to him around the campfire and say, "Okay, entertain me"?
That's probably why he hate me. Or maybe a player for the Bruins, Boston Bruins hockey.
Okay,
maybe Patrice Bergeron.
Yeah,
or somebody, literally anybody on the Bruins. I'm a huge Bruins fan.
Okay,
so maybe someone there.
Yeah,
those are probably the two. Or maybe Joe Gatto from Impractical Jokers.
Oh, Impractical Jokers. Yes, I've seen that show. Yes.
I love that show.
Okay, you could just pull off some crazy stunts out on the trail with some of that
I've
stuff.
always wanted to do that. I feel like that would not go down very well when you're miles away from any sort of civilization.
Yeah,
pranking people in the woods. I don't think that would work, but it would.
That's what my next backpacking trip this next July is all about. Is I'm gonna come up with as many different pranks as possible. I'm gonna try to film them, so we'll see how it goes. But I can see you doing something like, you know, like they do the thing where it's like, you got to make it from the back of the grocery store to the front while having your hand on somebody the whole time, like hand on a stranger. And so you got to make it a mile or so. I don't know. Like you just put your arm on a stranger, like, hey, can you tell me where we're going here? I can see something like that. That'd be funny.
Yeah, you could figure something out.
Yeah,
it'd be hard to film it too. It'd be hard to set up a hidden camera in the middle of the woods. That would also just be creepy as hell. Like filming someone without them knowing in the middle of the woods. Like I don't think I could. It's a little different when you're in like a grocery store, I feel like.
If you have the bigger the camera you have, which I know doesn't go with backpacking, the more legit you look as far as filming goes.
True. Versus some little like GoPro. Yeah,
exactly.
That'd be kind of weird.
We brought some big cameras out there before, and people are like, "What's going on here? Like, are we part of some production?" I'm like, "No, we have 5 subscribers. You don't want to pay attention to us." So, yeah. All right. So, okay, next one. You're hiking a long trail, and you've run out of food. All right, like you're just out. You haven't planned well enough. Whatever. Another backpacker approaches from the opposite direction and offers you some leftovers from a recent meal they've had with their local cult. You just got to follow them back to the food. It's only a couple miles away. What do you do?
How long do I have before I get to town? My next town.
Oh my gosh. I think you got we'll say a day. So you can make it, but it's going to be a struggle.
I'll definitely just suck it up and hike out because I hate leftovers to begin with. So
it's not the goal; it's the leftovers.
More the leftovers, to be honest.
Okay, all right.
I think I just send it. If it's a couple, if it's like longer than that, like before I get out, then maybe I'd have to make some tougher decisions. But I can make it a day, I think.
Yeah. Well, I can give you some tips on how to beg on the trail. Because I've definitely run short on food. When I was on the John Muir Trail, we ran like. I don't know that I ran short. I planned well. It was just like halfway through, my hunger just started to spike like out of nowhere.
That'll happen.
And it was like after our last food drop. So I was like, okay, I got to figure out a way to get more food. But yeah, begging worked. But anyway, our last one, you're out on the trail and you're convinced that you just saw a Bigfoot. Okay. Is it time to start making videos about Bigfoot hunting?
No. I'm so against Bigfoot. It's ridiculous.
Like you don't believe in him, or you're against him as a creature?
I don't believe in him.
Okay.
But I guess but then again, I guess the premise of the question was you're convinced that so I saw something that was so compelling that I had to go back on that belief. So that's kind of a cop-out answer. So dude, if I was convinced that I saw Bigfoot, then I guess I would have to talk about it.
Okay.
I would have to. Yeah, I would have to make a video about it.
Well, but here's my issue is people don't just do that. They don't just make one video about it. Like anybody who thinks they've seen Bigfoot, they devote their lives to it.
That's a good point.
I've talked to people. I'm like, okay, let's say I've been out on a run talking to a buddy. I'm like, let's say we just saw a Bigfoot right over there. Great. Like interesting, good conversational topic. Do I have to devote my life to it? Like, really? Is that a requirement?
That's funny. Yeah, I know, that's a good point. I tend to avoid Bigfoot things as much as possible. It's kind of funny now that I'm like making these like hiking mystery videos. I'm starting to get people coming in being like, oh, this person disappeared because of like Bigfoot or whatever. And I'm just like, man, nah, like, nah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, if you're going to keep on going down that road, at some point you're going to hit a Bigfoot type video, I imagine, or maybe like a Bigfoot debunking video.
It would be like a parody, if anything. Yeah. That would be pretty funny.
Yeah. We did a version of that. We had a few years ago, we were in Olympic National Park, like Bigfoot hunting. And one of the guys, unbeknownst to the rest of the group, bought a Bigfoot costume and hiked it in. And then, it was pretty fun. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Dude, damn.
Yeah. We had a lot of fun with that. So, all right. So, man, appreciate you playing along with those questions. I think we've covered a lot of ground here. So,
yeah.
All right. I know we've mentioned Kyle hates hiking, and we've mentioned your YouTube. Can you tell us about your podcast or anything else you have coming up, or anything we can look forward to, or where we can find you? Like, this is your chance to share your stuff.
Do the plugs. Yeah. So YouTube, if you just type in Kyle Hates Hiking, you'll find it. I have a podcast called Trail Tales.
A popular one.
It's relatively popular. I appreciate that. Like, I just interview a lot of thru hikers, but also, non-thru hikers too. Mm-hmm. We cover shorter trails that not as many people know about. We cover the long trails, the AT, PCT, CDT, plenty as well. I do some fun episodes. We have some reoccurring guests where we'll do like goofy, like we had one recently where we played around with Chat GPT and just did like, Chat GPT, give me a list of ultralight gear, but it's all wrong gear or something like just like in like chat, tell us a story about someone, so it was really fun. So we do goofy stuff. I really try to cover it all. And so that's Trail Tales. If you go any podcast app, you'll be able to find it. It's the one with the blue cover. I really need to get a new artwork for that.
That's good. You can read it from a distance. I think it's good. Yeah,
it's terrible, dude. You're too kind.
No, we're still working.
I'm getting a new one soon.
Okay,
yours is much better.
I like it. I still like it. So too bad.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Designed it myself.
Yeah. That's even better. Yeah.
Yeah, it was free.
Yeah, our first logo we designed ourselves, and we got some really positive feedback. And then I had like a professional come and look at it, like trying to like, tell us how we can improve. And they're like, your logo is like the worst thing in the world. And
that's probably what they would tell me too. I appreciate your kind words about it though.
Yeah.
And then Instagram at Kyle Hates Hiking, TikTok at Kyle Hates Hiking, and that's pretty much everything I got. I'm pretty sure.
We'll have that all in the show description. I'm the Chat GPT one. I did not catch that episode. I might steal that from you. I'll have to give you a shout out, and I won't do the same topic, but that's a really creative idea. That's so smart. I did listen to you had Miranda on from like she used to be sponsored by REI, and Miranda goes hiking or Miranda Outdoors.
Miranda goes outside,
goes outside is her new name.
Yeah, she's awesome.
We tried to have her on. We got the non-response, but I think you went about it a little bit differently. So I'll just
Miranda and I like we haven't met in person yet, but like we're like friends, I would say.
Okay.
So that's why I actually have her like phone number and stuff. So it's a little bit easier to set something up than just sending like a cold email. So
right.
I think that's how I got her on.
Yeah. Well, I think, and that's kind of the weird part about probably being like a YouTuber or, doing a podcast is like you end up making friends with people that you've never met, but you can actually get relatively close to them.
It's really awesome, dude. It's amazing. Yeah. It's one of the best parts about YouTube. Right. And not even just people that have like large followings too. Just like, there's
anybody.
So many like awesome people like that I've met through the show, through all the content. So it's I feel
let's be honest. People feel like you're their friend just from watching your videos, right?
Yeah, probably. Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Because I've experienced that with other YouTubers and podcasts that I listen to a lot.
Absolutely.
Like where I fanboy a little bit. There's like I saw a band like a couple months ago that I really like. They're not even that popular. Like at the risk of sounding like a jerk with an inflated ego, like just honestly, I'm probably more popular in terms of like social media than they are even.
Okay.
But, like I saw them and like I met them afterwards and I was fanboying so hard. I was like stumbling over my words, and it kind of brought me back to, there's only been a few times that this has happened with me where someone's like met me and kind of like I could tell they were like a little bit like nervous like that. And I was like, man, I literally know exactly what it feels like to be the person that they're talking to.
Right.
Or that I'm talking to, and I still was just like being a fool.
What was the band, if you don't mind me sharing?
A band called Home Safe.
Okay, so did you say like, hey, Home Safe? I know I'm like struggling talking right now, but just FYI, I've got 100,000 subscribers. So
no, I did not do that.
All right, I don't know.
I didn't have 100,000 back then.
Okay, sorry. All right, well, Kyle, man, we really appreciate you coming on the show, and we hope you can come back on. This has been excellent. Really appreciate your information and just having a lot of fun with all the nonsense we threw at you or that I threw at you. So. Yeah. All right. I'll have all that stuff, like I said, in the show description, all the links on social media. And Kyle, wish you the best, my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like this was so much fun. You guys got a good thing going here.
Yeah,
so
appreciate you.
So I really appreciate the invite.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so you said you had some strong reactions to things we talked about. What you got?
Strong reactions. You inserted that word, but
all right, you had some passionate reactions.
Oh boy, here we go. No, I thought it was just ironic that you mentioned my question about freeze-dried meals, starting with the letter P. And he's like, oh, okay, let me think about that. Let's see, peak fuel. And then he's like, I can't think of the other one. And then you're like, oh, Packet Gourmet. He's like, oh, yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. Okay. And then you're like, verbatim, you're like, yeah, that's a bad question. But what about, and then you went into
I didn't say bad. I said terrible.
Said oh, my bad. Sorry. Yeah. Terrible question. And then you were like, what about this question? Like, I had this question. Like, what trail that was in a movie that went 30 degrees
left? We already got over the answer.
All these details. And then he's like, his right answer was like, yeah, I don't know if I would have got that one. That was, I don't know.
He didn't say that.
That's what he said. Play it back. That's what he said. He's like, I don't think I would have got that one.
You're so funny.
And you're like, everybody knows what that is.
Oh my goodness.
I love it.
You're so funny. So here was the big complaint about that particular question. You literally just, reiterated the problem with it is you just said peak fuel and it's peak refuel. And then
whatever.
No, exactly. And you're like, whatever. And so I just
whatever.
As a side note, I said, by the way, it's called peak refuel. And you said, well, let's not get ticky-tack here, right? But then later in the trivia, you got super ticky-tack, which is why people had a problem.
Oh, so it's my fault that I had a question that was pretty direct, whereas yours was like including like 80 details about a trail.
When it comes to trivia, it's always your fault, Derek. Let's be honest here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we saw the Apple reviews and who's more fun with the trivia, me or you.
Okay. Let's talk about the trivia for a second because Kyle actually was really excited by the concept of trivia. He was interested in coming on our trivia game show.
Right.
We have to figure out if we can pull something like that off because we did. So that was our first round release as a regular episode. And compared to, episodes that were released before and after it, it did like a little bit below average. So I don't know if that's really encouraging us to do another one of these episodes. What do you think?
Well, like you said, if we did like a celebrity Moocher's Mayhem with all these big shots with, six-figure subscribers and all these things, whatever you want to call it, I think it could be good. I mean, I'll bring my patented original trivia. Okay. And you can do whatever you do.
I would love to do. I just think the logistical nightmare behind that. We have a hard enough time getting you.
It is.
You weren't even able to interview him this time. So what's going to make you able to, be a part of like 3 people's schedules? Plus,
that is a challenge. Yeah, we've had some children issues over here, so it's been.
You have had a big week, so
big couple weeks.
We'll kind of, but even so, it's going to be hard even to have them schedule among themselves. I'm not saying it's not possible, but.
It's that's the hardest part, though.
We'll maybe try. Is all I can promise.
Slim effort. You can just give out a specific date, time, and see who's on board.
Yeah,
and just go with it. All you need is like 2, 3, 3.
We need it's helpful to have 3.
You need 3. You need 3.
For sure.
Okay.
All right. So one thing that's interesting that was your first takeaway. I thought for sure you felt some redemption when he started talking about how people complained to him that their water reservoirs were constantly leaking on them.
Right. Okay.
Because you have that problem multiple times, right?
I've had it a couple times, not multiple. Yeah. Well, sure. Multiples too. I know what you're going to say. I have. No, I agree with you guys on the water bottle thing. I've been leaning more toward like sport bottle scenario. I mean, you're like ignorant, I guess, to the plastic quality on the bottom of the bottle and the triangle that I had explained to you, the recyclability number and all that stuff. So that's all you. But I am somewhere. I want a little bit better quality of the bottle, so the sports bottle seems to do better. But the bladder is kind of for me now. Even though I have I feel like a good one, I don't really want to bring it.
All right.
So
you're on board with that. What other reactions do you have? I was kind of leaning down that road.
I just thought you guys it was great. You guys, for a while, I'm like, oh, they're really sweet. And then it's like, you were really nice to each other. You guys like nice to each other. You're all agreeing with each other. And then it was like old married couple. You went like old married couple. And I was like, yeah.
Okay, which part?
Okay, well, one was like, you guys both kind of sounded like 2 old men kind of griping about the littlest, dumbest things about like, like, why do you do this? And what about when you, that bite valve will 100% hit the dirt when you, I'm like, oh my gosh, again with the bite valve. And then it was like, and then he's over here like, you know what? I hate it when people put their hands through the loops of the trekking poles the wrong way. Like, I think I do it the right way. He doesn't even know if he does it the right way. I think I do it the right way. And he's like, I feel naked if it's not in the loop. I'm like, you guys, it was pretty funny.
We were, but they were not complaining to each other. Like we were complaining generally about the same ideas. Right?
Yeah, you're like 2 guys at the coffee shop just going at it. And at the end of it, I was like, Carl, why don't you? Everything seems to bother you guys. Why don't you guys just hike naked? Don't bring anything, and then like nothing will bother. I don't know. It's
the show's Kyle Hates Hiking. We're having kind of a like in good spirit a hater show, I suppose. Right? Is that so? It was kind of on brand here.
I'll say it was on point. I'll say that's true. That is a true thing.
And that's not what his channel's all about. Just to clarify, we just happen to agree on a lot of things, and I just picked out things that I thought were interesting. So, okay, for example, I picked out the fact that. Our big disagreement was I guess has people that are planning for the bigger hikes and they're stressing out or they're really over worried about.
Oh yeah.
And so this is not a problem that we've had at all. So this is the one area that I wasn't griping about. Like
true.
Like whose side are you on this one?
Well, I mean, you don't really care about that? Like if they're griping about it, what do you like?
No, I just haven't seen this be a problem before. He might get more feedback. Honestly, you get more direct feedback on YouTube than you do as a podcast. So he would have more access to feedback on the stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, maybe his listeners are just more direct and wordish than ours. Okay. I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
Well, what are you going to do if you get all these questions? Are you going to find it entertaining to get that much feedback in general? And are you going to answer all those questions?
I've had some people ask questions. I mean, just recently, like specific gear questions, which is fine, but I don't know that I would describe him as like stressed out or,
maybe was it an over exaggeration? You think?
I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. And so I just think that, like in all walks of life, for sure you can find people that are stressed out about, big things, little things, all things.
Yeah.
Or some people are stressed out no matter what it is, right? They're just like freaked out about it and you're just like, calm down.
Full of anxiety.
And these, I guess, are not typically the people that we're going to be going backpacking with. And these are probably not typically the people that are going to be interested in the same things we are on this podcast. So it could be that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would agree with that, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
all right, what are the takeaways? Anything else?
My last takeaway was like, I thought you guys could probably start your own like side podcast and just call it like, you could call it like the Cult Connection podcast. You know, like you guys are like all about these cults, and I'm like, oh my gosh, with this cult stuff. It was just hilarious.
We probably could, but I mean, he's doing just fine on his own, so I don't think he wants another voice in the mix.
I mean, that was pretty extreme. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, I definitely want to have him back on though. And I mean, maybe if there's like a week that you can't make it, like, should he be a co-host?
I don't know. What was your vibe with that?
Yeah.
Could you fill in if I'm gone?
I mean, there's a lot of folks that I would love to fill in with, but I mean, you're number one draft pick. So it's kind of like, you know, when all things are hitting the fan, so to speak, and we have no other option, that's when co-host happens. But so I prefer not to have co-host, but let's be honest, man, your life is chaos at times. And so things are going to hit the fan.
It is.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. He seemed like a really good vibe guy. So
I guess I'm kind of asking for your blessing on that. Is that,
I trust your discernment. With him, I got a good vibe from him though.
All right.
Him and probably like one or two other people.
Oh, okay. Well, you got to share. Who else we talking about here?
That's off camera. That's
off camera. I want to know. All right. Okay. It's got to be Villain Jesse's got to be one of the guys, right?
It's off camera. I'm going to say off camera.
Okay.
Put me on pressure here.
What about Rocky?
You just like beat it like a the horse is dead. The horse is dead.
It is. Okay, last takeaway I had was so you mentioned the cult. We talked briefly about, maybe not briefly, but we talked about like one of the scary Vermont towns that he was in where people are trying to sell him like stolen iPads. And I guess my question is like, are you afraid of the Appalachian Trail now after those stories?
The cult stories? I'm like, geez.
And the crime and
kind of, yeah. I'm like, I didn't know there was like cults living up there. Like they're going to approach me and suck me into their weird, ways or whatever. I'm like, dude, I don't want your pancakes if it's going to make me stay and like, I don't know what they do up there.
You're not eating cult pancakes, basically.
No, I'm not going to eat cult pancakes.
I'm not either. I'm staying away from that. So I would rather pay and not. Yeah, we were not.
I would rather filter your water for life than go eat cold pancakes.
Okay.
All right. Start I'm out with that.
So like I mentioned before, Kyle has some really interesting videos, really interesting video topics. He actually does, at least for me, hit a nerve with some of the stuff that he's putting out there. Right. That being said, he's not family friendly. So his videos, I mean, it's just language. That's all I found. It's not that he's like, showing inappropriate things. It's just language. So if you want to check out his channel, just kind of be aware and maybe not with the kids around. And so Kyle Hates Hiking, and we'll have the links in the show description. I've got 90s cult classic trivia, classic coming up after this.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So this 90s cult classic trivia is brought to us by Vaucluse Gear. Let's be honest. Back sweat really dampens our spirits. Not only is it uncomfortable and potentially dangerous, it's gross to look at. Good thing the Vaucluse Cool Drive Backpack Airflow Frame can solve this problem. This game-changing solution fits all packs between 18 and 65 liters to give you the airflow you need to stay drier. Check it out at vauclusegear.com. And thank you for sponsoring this cult classic trivia. I've got 3 questions for you, Derek.
I'm ready for all 3.
So this is like cult classic movies, just to clarify. All right. Okay. None of these are multiple choice. But I feel like they're all easy. I don't know. Did you watch a lot of movies in the 90s?
Goonies, number 1 answer.
That's 80s.
Oh, that's 80s.
That was the first one I thought of when I thought of cult classic. That's funny.
Yeah, I guess I'll find out. I feel like 80s would be better, but okay, let's go 90s.
You might miss one and then get really mad, but I think you're gonna end up with 2 out of 3. So
we'll see. I feel like it'd be better in 80s.
Calm down ahead of time. All right.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Number 1.
Bruce Willis. Is this the hard one first?
Maybe.
Die Hard.
Die Hard is not a cult classic. It's like a big time movie. Okay,
right,
is that your answer? You want to go with Die Hard?
No.
Number 1, Bruce Willis is a time traveler who has witnessed his own death as a kid and eventually ends up in a mental institution.
Okay.
This is like a super weird movie. I actually liked it at the time. I don't know about now.
I know this one.
Yeah.
Is this like 10 years ago or something? 12 years? No.
Is your question is the 1990s 10 years ago? 90s, the answer is no.
90 it was in the okay, no, it's coming back. I'm just thinking. I want to say it was like the monkey one. Not the Brad. No, the Brad Pitt one. 12 Monkeys.
12 Monkeys.
Yeah.
Good job. You figured it out. That is correct. Did you like that movie?
Yeah, it was okay.
Okay.
It's kind of.
It's just weird. I thought it was just weird, and at the time I liked weird stuff. So I guess I still kind of like weird stuff too. But
it makes sense. It makes sense.
All right. So I think that was the hardest one, to be honest. Number 2, Kevin Bacon jumps from rock to rock to avoid ground monsters.
Oh, that's Tremors.
Tremors. There you go. Cult classic.
I thought you were gonna go with the River Wild.
That is 90s. Oh,
it is 90s.
That's a good. I actually like that one. That was a good one.
Meryl Streep. That was a good movie.
That was a good movie. That's a good one. Okay. And number 3 is pretty Captain Obvious. Brad Pitt beats himself up to impress dudes.
Fight Club.
Fight Club, dude. You know your stuff, man. Cult classic. Not gonna throw you off. All right.
Worked it. Yeah. Okay.
All right. I got one major tidbit, but it's a biggie. Kind of a biggie.
Oh. All right. Yeah.
All right. So we got a reaction from Jason. We have a lot of Jasons that are on the show.
We have a lot of reactions.
I don't know where this Jason's from, but anyway, I actually forwarded this one to you, so you should be prepped to kind of talk about this one. Okay. So he said he was interested in joining us on a Patreon trip, but it would feel too much like paying to have friends. And then he goes on to further describe how that's the case, but I don't want to use some of the words there. What do you think about that?
I mean, what do I think about the paying to have friends? I mean, I don't know if I would look at it that way.
Okay.
I think it's like if we went to go do something, like you're going to do something that obviously I think, we have a lot of people that want to go, so we have to like find a way to limit it. So charging is probably one of the ways to do that. But like if we're going to go do something with other people we don't really know, like, well, we're going to go hike some famous peak or whatever, like you're going to pay to go. Like, because you want that experience. Like if
if you're going to pay to go, and if you're going to pay a guide, you're going to pay a lot of stinking money. Like,
if you're going to go do Everest, or something crazy like that. You're going to pay money for that. So are you paying to go have friends with you? Not really. I think you're going to have the experience.
Yeah.
And I think, we're part of that experience. I guess we're part of the package.
All right.
Is that weird to say? That's okay. Yeah.
We're part of the package. So it's kind of weird to say.
Is it worth it to see Carl complain on a trip? Is really the question you need to ask.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
And it is. It is. The answer is yes. It is. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess when I think of paying to have friends, I think of like the stereotypical.
That's what I do, you guys. I pay to be his friend.
Yeah.
That's what I do. You're not doing that. I'm doing that.
Right. I think of just like sororities, fraternities kind of stuff. And if any of you are out there involved in one of those, like that's the stereotypical pay to have friends. And that costs a lot of money. And then also if it's people that are going on, like we're not providing guided trips. I call them semi-guided trips. And so I don't think that going on a semi-guided trip for $5 a month is paying to have friends. A lot of folks happen to have made friends as part of the trips. In fact, most people that have come have actually like created some pretty strong connections with at least one person on the trip, if not more. But I don't think that was their intention in the first place.
You're paying for the content mainly, right? You're paying for the content. The trip is like a bonus thing we decide just to do.
We got bonus episodes, we got the ad-free episodes, and then the Patreon trip, is like an extra thing for sure.
Right.
So I didn't really like that, to be honest. I thought it's not really a good analogy. And if you view it that way, then I understand not joining Patreon. Like certainly we're already sold out for our, not sold out, but like our signups are full for our August trip, which is, months away still. So I get the hesitation, but I think a lot of people I know one guy's like, I just like the ad-free episodes. Like that alone is worthwhile. Yeah. But $5 a month, man. Like, I don't think you're paying to have friends at $5 a month. That's not very much money.
You're doing that for all kinds of things, Right. I mean, maybe, and if people, you're not meeting the Apple TV people, you're not meeting the Spotify people, right? You're just happening to be meeting us if we go on a trip with you. So
yeah,
kind of a bonus,
Yeah, and some of the other guys like Rocky and
and Rocky
like Mike and stuff. So join, don't join for that reason, but we offer other things as well.
It's not a cult, guys. It's not a cult.
We have never gotten feedback like that, so I feel like it was worth talking about. And you're right, it's not a cult. Thanks, Derek.
It's not a cult, but it's not the Patreon cult.
All right,
that's a different website.
He had another comment that I thought was really interesting too. This one, he said, he likes a lot of the stuff we do in terms of like, I think Rocky mentioned like the 1 billion mile backpacking trip in one of his MP3s. He's like, I want in on that. So I thought that was funny. But he said, I think the Nalgene bottle has just one benefit. And this is really creative. Without it, we would have no reference for the size that other pack items can compress to. How it seems like everything folds down to about the size. Yeah. About
that's true.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well done. Well done on that one, Jason. I like that comment. So anyway, hey, we appreciate you listening. Appreciate you supporting us. In that same comment, he did complain about the fact that he's caught up on all the episodes, which is super nice of him. And as a result, he has to add a week between the episodes. But again, you don't, because we got a bunch of bonus ones on Patreon. So that's up to you.
That's
up
true.
to you.
$5 a month. Boom.
All right. Really, like, his comment about the Patreon trips was just like a backwards way of me sharing about Patreon. Did you see how I did
think
that?
that was creative, I guess. But are you just bitter about the comment? Or are you okay with it? No. You process through it?
Maybe a little bitter about the comment. Because I don't know. I don't ever want to be accused of like setting up a structure where people are paying to be my friend.
Why do you don't need to defend yourself? It's like, it's Patreon.
No, I'm just telling you why I'm bitter about it. I mean, I'm just explaining. I'm not defending myself.
Why you're bitter. Okay, my bad. You're just bitter, not defending. Got it.
Well, okay. What if I accuse you of like, Derek, like your game nights, like where you got to pay an entry fee, aren't I just like paying to have friends? Like, I don't think that's appropriate, Derek. Like, you'd probably be a little bothered by that, right?
No, I wouldn't, because I'd be like, well, am I feeding you? Am I getting Am I getting you pizza unlimited for $5? Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of things you're giving me, but if I make the accusation, and the accusation, whether it's like good, true, or not, like, it's still gonna bother you a little bit.
No, I think I just think you're kind of ignorant. You know,
you're just like, I'm just not gonna invite you. Then you don't get to the game nights.
If that's how you're taking free pizza and games, that's on you. Have fun.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Totally.
That, my friend, is all I got.
That's all I got, guys. We will see you next time. If you want to be harassed, this guy will do it for you. We'll see you next time.